Hello, welcome to the channel Y Stories. Enjoy watching.
Rushing to check on her sick husband, the woman canceled her business trip. But just after paying the fortune teller's fare, she froze, hearing her words. Marta's job was stressful. By the age of 36, she had achieved a lot, but at what cost? Her once happy marriage was falling apart. The last straw was Marta's appointment as the commercial director. Barely appearing at home except for dinner and to sleep, she had almost forgotten what her own husband looked like. Credit had to be given to Mario, who was holding up as best he could and did not make a fuss about it. The man understood that career had become nearly the meaning of life for his beloved wife after the loss of their only child. Marta had deeply mourned the death of little Vicente in infancy. The loss of the child was due to a congenital heart defect. The couple had fought the grim diagnosis for a year, but all attempts were in vain. The baby did not survive another surgery. Marta thought it was the end. Vicente was their long-awaited child, around whom the husband and wife had planned their future, but alas. After Vicente's death, Marta withdrew into herself, lost a lot of weight, and almost completely refused food and contact with the outside world. But worst of all was the grim diagnosis the doctors gave her. The childbirth had been difficult, and she could not have any more children. Mario endured all these hardships and never turned away from his wife. He supported her in everything, patiently waiting for his beloved woman to once again start experiencing joy in life. About 2 years of deep apathy tormented Marta. Expensive psychologists, prescribed courses of medication, or exotic therapies did not help. Help came by chance. When Mario came home extremely depressed, a very complex but lucrative project was hanging in the balance at work, and the then commercial director of their company preferred to fold his hands and leave the employees to deal with the emerging difficulties themselves. Mario sat in the kitchen, dejected, heavily sighing at the laptop screen. "Something wrong, dear?" Marta whispered as she entered the kitchen. "Why aren't you sleeping?" Mario looked at her anxiously. "Go to bed, it's just work stuff." "I can't sleep." "Maybe I can help somehow." "Our client is troublesome," Mario sighed. "See this chart? The red line is at this level, but for the project to be successful, we need to raise it at least a couple of points higher. We've already racked our brains. We've cut here and tightened there, but still, it doesn't work out. If we fail this task now, they'll fire half the department. I can feel it. He's already thrown in the towel, understands it's hopeless, and this, by the way, is a government contract. We took on the obligations, have to fulfill them, come what may. Move over." A spark suddenly ignited in Marta's eyes, which had been extinguished a couple of years ago. Mario even thought he imagined it. But Marta looked carefully at the screen, pressed some buttons, flipped through documents. "What's this?" "That's where all the problem is," Mario furrowed his brow. "When the contract was signed, prices were one thing, but then, a crisis happened, the currency got more expensive. And we don't have producers of that level. Ordering from abroad is not just expensive, it's impossible. But the client doesn't care, you understand? They are ready to wait, but no turning back. You worked in this field yourself, you must understand how everything is structured." "I understand." Marta nodded significantly. "Listen, if it's not too much trouble, leave all this to me tomorrow. I'll find out through old channels what can be done, maybe we can fix the situation. I can't promise anything, but who knows?" "Are you serious?" Mario looked at his wife in surprise. "Marta, you've been out of the loop for 3 years, and you're not in the best shape either. Let me handle it. You shouldn't overexert yourself." "Mario, I've been thinking, you're slaving away, hardly sleeping at night, and all I'm doing is sinking deeper into our sorrow. It's time to get back to normal life. We can't grieve forever. Let me do this. I'll at least distract myself. If it doesn't work out, no big deal. Okay? Now let's go to bed. What you're doing now until morning won't change anything. The supplier won't just appear overnight if there hasn't been one until now. You're right, the husband smiled. All right, let's go to sleep. I'm really tired today. These nerves, it's a short step from a breakdown. My head is splitting. Let me make you some herbal tea. My mom came by today. She brought a good mix for nerves. She's always worried about me. Marta made the tea, and they slowly started chatting over their tea time. Mario couldn't remember the last time they had such a calm conversation with each other. Marta even laughed at his jokes, and when she fell asleep, a gentle smile played on her face. In the morning, Mario, as usual, went to work, leaving all the materials for the troublesome contract with his wife. He was surprised in the evening when a glowing, happy wife greeted him. Mario. Marta's eyes sparkled. I did it. Your project will succeed. But the husband looked at her skeptically. Did it really all work out? What about the supplies? I managed to negotiate. Remember Alicia, Ventura's wife? The redhead? She's blonde now. Yes, her. She now works for a Chinese company. They have what you need, and there won't be any problems with the supplies. She holds a very high position now. You should contact her today. You can discuss the details with her since I'm not in a position to make such decisions independently. Anyway, they can ship everything from Guangzhou tomorrow, and we'll have it all by next week. No way, exclaimed Mario. We tried to initiate dialogue with the Chinese. There are 3 suppliers there, but their terms are just unreal. One charges exorbitant prices, the second can't meet deadlines, and the third has personal issues specifically with our company. And Guangzhou? Are you sure they produce exactly what we need? I've studied the entire market thoroughly. There was nothing like that. Not the entire market. Marta looked at her husband cunningly. You see, Alicia is no ordinary person. She's connected with the defense industry, and she has access to resources that you couldn't even dream of. So call her while it's hot, before she changes her mind. Mario took the phone in disbelief and dialed the number dictated by his wife. They spoke with Alicia for a long time, but with each passing minute, the man's face grew brighter. Finally, he hung up the phone and looked at his wife with gratitude. A week later, he offered her a position in his company. It's a minor position, Marta, not at your level, he stroked her hand, but you have to start somewhere. Especially with your experience. A 3-year break, of course, has had an impact. A lot has changed, you'll need to catch up. But our boss is so grateful to you for helping us out of a tough situation. You really saved us. I'd even go as a regular secretary, exclaimed Marta. I'm so tired of sitting at home. I can't stand it. Marta took the position of junior marketer when she was 29. Working diligently, actively attracting new clients, and meticulously analyzing the market, she quickly earned the respect of her superiors. She wasn't afraid of any challenging issues, knew how to negotiate even with difficult partners, and significantly influenced the growth of the company over several years. In 7 years, she made a meteoric rise from a simple marketer to a top manager. Mario, who only had an indirect connection to the commercial department, saw no competition in his wife. On the contrary, he was proud of her. It didn't bother him at all that her salary was almost 3 times his own, or that her colleagues both feared and respected her. He was just happy that his beloved wife no longer looked at the world with a dim gaze. Mario. Marta affectionately patted her husband on the head. Just don't be mad. What is it? Mario looked at her anxiously. Something happened? You look a bit. It's all fine. But you know I take everything very seriously. Well, what about? Mario, our anniversary. I remember we planned to go to the countryside for a week, but Ion asked me very strongly. God. Don't tell me it's another business trip. Mario exclaimed. You've only just come back. Marta, I understand that work is everything to you, but there has to be a limit. You're going to run yourself down. Remember the last time you had a real rest? Last year? Going to your mom's cottage doesn't count. Mario, but it's just for a week. I know it's easy to burn out, but they really can't do it without me. You remember the Soto contract? Oh, no. Mario sighed resignedly. But you weren't even leading that project. Where did Mora go? It's directly his responsibility. How could he dare to abandon it halfway? Mora is on a binge, Marta wrinkled her nose sarcastically. You know his weakness. He met some woman, went off the rails. And I thought that was just a rumor. I wish it were. They've already set up a meeting. You can't joke around with the Turks. That's why Ion begged me to take care of it. You're going to Turkey too? Mario's eyes widened. Yes, to Istanbul. There are 3 of us going, me, Mora's assistant, and Inigo. And why is that old devil going? Mario was surprised. Inigo should have retired long ago. He always sticks his nose where it doesn't belong. He's going to ruin everything. He's too hot-headed. Well, Ion figured it'd be easier for me to communicate with the Turks if I'm accompanied by men. Although the company director there is a woman too. I'm just worried Inigo might start flirting with her and mess up the entire contract. But arguing with Ion is pointless, you know that. Honey, it's just for a week. All right, what's the use in arguing? It's already decided. I can only wish you luck. A contract with the Turks would really help us now. When are you leaving? Tomorrow evening, Marta looked at him guiltily. But there's good money in it, dear. It'll just cover the last payment for the house. Marta. Not the money talk again. You know that's a sore subject for me. Mario, the wife frowned sternly, we've talked about this so many times. You shouldn't be bothered by my salary. Who's to blame that our company pays commercial people more than specialized workers like you? That's just how the market works. But I know better than anyone that your contribution to our common cause is far more important than mine. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to attempt these damned contracts at all. You're a valuable resource. Someone like me can easily be replaced. Don't say that. Easily. Mario laughed. You have a commercial talent. You can't teach that. You have the gift of the gab, and your brain works. That's rare nowadays. Usually, it's one or the other. All right, I won't bring it up again. Go on your business trip, just don't overwork yourself. Have a look around the city, since we were only in Istanbul and passing about 8 years ago. It's a very beautiful capital. Definitely. Marta kissed him on the cheek. Istanbul welcomed Marta with the summer heat, an array of diverse aromas, and a multifaceted noise that filled her entire being. On her first day, the woman familiarized herself with the city, trying to spend less time at the hotel with her colleagues. The persistent Inigo still tried to offer her a city tour, but Marta, having politely declined, flitted out of the hotel to explore the capital on her own. It wasn't her first time being alone in a foreign city. Fluent in English and knowing some Turkish, she was not afraid of language barriers. She enjoyed walking through the old streets and more modern avenues, visited the waterfront, and dined at one of Istanbul's famous restaurants. As evening approached, she settled in one of the squares, happily feeding the local cats, a notable attraction of Istanbul. Returning to the hotel, Marta took a bath and was preparing for bed when Mario called her. "Hello, darling." Mario's voice sounded strange, immediately making her suspect something was amiss. "Mario, what happened?" she asked anxiously. "Nothing. Why do you ask?" "You sound odd. Are you sick?" "I don't think so." "Don't lie to me, I can tell." "Everything's fine, Marta," Mario tried to reassure her. "Though yes, you're right, my head does hurt a bit, but it's probably because of the geomagnetic storms. There was a powerful solar flare yesterday." "Yes, I heard about it." "It's been happening all year," Marta somewhat relaxed. "Mario, if your head hurts, don't endure it. Take some pills or something." "Should I come back?" "Are you crazy?" the man exclaimed. "It's just a headache." It's not worth worrying about, and certainly not worth canceling an important business trip over. You are more important to me than anything else. Marta pouted. Those two can manage without me. That's enough. I don't want to hear any more. Mario was adamant. You better wrap things up with your Turks quickly and come back with results. And I'll be fine. You're always like this, Mario. At least don't go to work tomorrow. Take a sick day. No way. You know I won't do that. I'll take a pill and it'll pass. Fine. Let's just say I'm overreacting and it's nothing serious. You know me, I always make a mountain out of a molehill. I love you. I love you too. After chatting briefly with her husband, Marta hung up and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Sleep eluded her as tragic scenarios about Mario's health played out in her mind. She knew it was all nonsense, but a nagging feeling inside wouldn't let her rest. Marta finally fell asleep fitfully. A meeting with the Turks was scheduled for the morning. Their office was located in a luxurious business center, which Marta and her colleagues headed to as soon as she woke up. Surprisingly, the negotiations went very well. No one objected, and the terms proposed by Marta's side were acceptable to everyone. But the Turks didn't want to rush. It was decided that everything would be settled within the week. Marta, relieved, left the negotiation room, leaving Iona and the second man there as they were handling the further specifics of the deal. On her way to the hotel, she called her husband, but for some reason, his phone was out of reach. Strange, Marta glanced at her watch, the middle of the workday. Mario never turns off his phone. Just as she thought this, her own smartphone vibrated nervously. Hello, she answered to an unfamiliar number. Marta, a deep female voice came through the phone. Yes. You are being contacted by the Regional Clinical Hospital, Neurology Department. Is Mario Benitez your husband? Yes. Hearing about the hospital, Marta felt an inexplicable chill throughout her body. The tone of the woman speaking to her was metallic, usually not the bearer of good news. Your husband was admitted to the ICU last night. What? There must be some mistake. I spoke to him last night. Ambulance was called at 3 in the morning. Apparently, a neighbor called. Mario is conscious now, but what happened? Tell me as it is. Marta, feeling weak in her knees, somehow made it to the nearest bench and heavily sat down. Your husband had a stroke. His condition is severe, but stable. He has been moved from the ICU to a ward. This can't be, Marta exclaimed. Mario is only 37. What stroke? That's usually something that happens to old people. Don't say that, the doctor interrupted her. We're even seeing very young boys being brought in nowadays. But those are all details. Can you come here? We are located at. Wait. I'm currently in Turkey on a business trip. But are there any other relatives of Mario? Yes, his mother and sister, but they are also in another city. I will contact them. I will come. Marta suddenly blurted out heatedly. I'm taking a flight right now and will be there in a few hours. Lady, don't worry so much. The worst is over. But what? Men usually have a very hard time recovering from strokes. Currently, Mario has impaired speech and motor skills. Are you saying he is paralyzed? Yes, but don't worry prematurely. Your husband is young, and usually in such cases, rehabilitation is faster and easier, and mobility is fully restored. I am waiting for you. My name is Margarita Saz. I am Mario's attending physician. When you arrive, call me on this number. Okay? Even if I'm not on duty, I'll come. I'm very grateful to you, Marta sobbed. She immediately booked herself a return ticket. The next flight was in 3 hours. She was lucky to find tickets at all during the peak tourist season. She immediately called a taxi to return to the hotel to pack her things. On the way to the airport, she called Inigo. I urgently need to return, Marta explained, nearly in tears. What happened, sweetheart? Inigo sounded fatherly concerned, hearing her voice. Mario is in the hospital. My God, what happened? A stroke. I just spoke to the doctor. That can't be. A stroke at such an age? Poor boy. But go, of course. We'll manage here, especially since the Turks turned out to be cooperative. Have you informed Ion yet? No, you're the first I called. I will contact him now. All right, Marta. The main thing is not to worry, everything will be all right. Is he still in the ICU? They said he has been moved to a ward. But Mario is paralyzed. Oh, why is this happening to him? Marta, pull yourself together. Inigo's tone suddenly became strict, which was extremely rare. Your hysteria won't make him better. You are a strong girl, and he is your match. You'll manage. The most important thing now is to be there for him. Don't worry about work. After saying goodbye to her colleague, Marta made several more calls, including to her immediate boss and Mario's relatives. To her dismay, the flight was delayed. For over 2 hours, Marta nervously watched the board, waiting for the boarding announcement, but it never came. The weather worsened dramatically, a strong storm began, the sky beyond the large departure hall windows darkened and was intermittently lit by flashes of lightning. With each roll of thunder, Marta flinched and prayed. Eventually, patches of light began to appear in the dark sky. 40 minutes later, boarding was announced. A few hours later, Marta's plane landed at the airport of her hometown. Seeing nothing around her, the woman rushed down the jet bridge, maneuvered several escalators, and even disregarded her luggage. It was getting close to evening. The airport's parking lot was packed with cars to the brim, and an accident had caused a significant traffic jam at the exit. Realizing that taking a taxi wouldn't get her to the city quickly, Marta decided to take the Air Express. She bought a ticket and headed to the platform, from which the train would leave in 25 minutes. Feeling a strong thirst, Marta headed to the nearest coffee kiosk. As she walked away from it, she suddenly felt someone tugging at her sleeve. She turned around and saw an elderly woman in front of her. A deep, heavy scent of sandalwood hit her nostrils instantly. The old lady, who wore this perfume, looked lost. Marta immediately noticed a resemblance in the woman to a gypsy, which made her recoil from the stranger, recalling all the stories about people of that nationality. Forgive me generously, the old woman said in a deep contralto, which did not match her appearance. Don't be afraid of me. I'm a gypsy, but not one of those you find around train stations who steal money and hypnotize people. I didn't think that. Marta tried to justify herself. You thought. But that's not important. I understand, our people have such a reputation that you wouldn't wish it on an enemy. But we are not all like that. Marta looked the elderly woman up and down, no rags, multi-layered skirts, or colorful scarves. Only her dark, deep, and somewhat otherworldly eyes gave away her gypsy heritage. The old lady's gray hair was neatly tied up in a bun, and instead of colorful rags, she wore a quite elegant trouser suit. Girl, tell me, the gypsy suddenly switched to a familiar tone, are you heading to the city now? I saw you buying a ticket for the electric train at the ticket office. Yes, but sometimes things happen in everyone's life that we just can't influence, the woman sighed deeply. And so it is with me now. And with you too. What are you talking about? Marta tensed under the sharp gaze of the old woman. Girl, help me, will you? It turned out that I was seeing off my son, and he's already flown away. And I just realized that my purse with money was left at home. Here we go, Marta thought, cringing in disgust. Now she'll be begging for money. I know these station scammers. A group of them nearly robbed my mother once, she barely escaped them. I know what you're thinking, these words sounded quite ominous. But I'm not one of them. Girl, I'm not asking for money from you, and I certainly won't hypnotize you here. I just need to get home. I have a granddaughter there, she's only 10. The girl is independent, but anything could happen. I could walk, but with my legs, I'd only get there by the weekend. I used to sneak on, but how can I now? There are entry systems everywhere, cameras. What do you want from me? Marta was about to leave, but something stopped her, the same inner feeling she had when Mario said he just had a headache, and she knew it wasn't just that. Dear, I will be grateful to you until I die if you buy me a ticket. I'll return the money, believe it or not. Here's my passport, look. You can even write down my address. What the heck? We can go straight to my place, and I'll give you everything back. Marta mechanically took the passport extended to her, Vicente Serafina. Wow, Marta thought. What a strange combination. I wonder, is she really a gypsy? The surname seems foreign. And the address. Wow, that's a rather expensive area. Girl, forgive me for God's sake. What's your name? Serafina inquired. Marta. Marta, I am not a poor person, and it's extremely unpleasant for me to beg like some beggar, but I have no one here but my granddaughter, and my son is currently on a plane, flying to his wife's homeland. Things are complicated for them. But you don't want to know all this. I approached you first because I saw you and immediately understood that a person like you would not leave someone in trouble. You are in trouble yourself. I swear to you, if you help me, I will help you too. How? Marta looked at the old woman skeptically. How could you know something happened to me? Everything's fine with me. Kid, you can't fool me. Your eyes reveal it all, some kind of sorrow. And not just one. Marta examined the old woman closely, neatly manicured nails, clearly done by a skilled technician, gold earrings with some green stones that could well be emeralds. Catching her gaze, Serafina immediately reached for her earrings. I can leave them with you as collateral if you want. These were my grandmother's. She was a famous ballerina, you know. An officer gave these earrings to her. They're not just expensive, they mean a lot to me. No, that's not necessary. What are you doing? Marta recoiled. All right, I'll buy you a ticket. You don't have to give me anything. If you're lying, it's on your conscience. It won't make me any poorer. Lying is not the best way to survive. A small lie gives birth to a big one, and then it snowballs. Serafina sighed. And you, my girl, never lie. Lies buried my 2 husbands, took away my daughter, my own brother. I know what I'm talking about. Fate always finds a way to give back. And I will repay you. It's not in my rules to remain in debt. Marta went with the old woman to the ticket counter and purchased her a ticket. Annoyingly, the seat was next to her own. She had no desire to travel together, so Marta decided to move to any available seat once on the train. But all seats were taken. Marta grimaced in annoyance and let Serafina pass to the window seat, sitting at the edge herself and trying to call anyone, just to avoid engaging in conversation with the old woman. She caused her some unease. It was difficult to call this feeling dislike, it was more like danger. For some reason, the connection on the train was unstable, the signal bars disappeared now and then, so Marta had to give up her endeavor and warily waited for Serafina to start a conversation. But the old woman remained silent, staring intently out the window. Gradually, Marta calmed down, realizing that the old woman really just found herself in an awkward situation and was experiencing no less discomfort than Marta herself. Marta began to doze off. Suddenly, she was awakened by the cry of an infant. She opened her eyes and looked around. The train was quiet, only soft music playing from somewhere. Marta stood up and headed to the bathroom, glancing around to see who was traveling with a child. She didn't even know why she did it, but curiosity grew. On her way to the bathroom, Marta saw no one. People were sitting calmly in their seats, waiting for the stop. On the way back, she noticed no one with an infant either. Settling back into her seat, Marta suddenly turned to Serafina, who was flipping through a magazine she had pulled out from the pocket of the seat in front. "Excuse me, Serafina," she began. "Did you hear that?" A child was crying. I woke up because of it. And now, it's strange, I walked through the entire carriage, but there's no one with children. A child, the old woman raised an eyebrow. "No, I didn't hear anything." "You must have dreamed it." "You know, our subconscious talks to us through dreams. It's quite possible that the child was not crying in the carriage, but in your soul. And you know exactly which child I'm talking about." Marta felt a chill. "How do you know?" she hissed through her teeth. "A woman's face is unique," replied Serafina. "It bears the imprint of her entire life. Men can hide everything they've experienced deep inside, but women can't. Every shock shows up in another wrinkle, muscle tension. Even the color of the face can tell a lot. And no amount of cosmetics or procedures can hide it. Many don't notice it, but I have, if you will, a gift. Although I wouldn't call it a gift, just careful attention and the ability to analyze." "Really?" Marta remarked skeptically. "And what can you tell about me from my face?" "About you?" "A lot," the old woman smiled. "For instance, several years ago, you experienced the death of a child. A very young boy. You hadn't even had time to love him properly, but you mourned him for a long time. And now you think it's all behind you, but it's not. You try to drown out the pain by working from morning till night, but it only helps superficially. The scar on your heart reminds you from time to time. But you are not alone, and that at least partially helps you cope with everything that's happened. But there's more." "More what?" Marta tensed, realizing that this old woman couldn't possibly know such details from anywhere. "Your husband, he has fallen seriously ill recently. This imprint is still fresh. And the worry in your eyes says that you don't really know what happened." "How can you see that?" Marta exclaimed, apparently waking a passenger sitting in front. "Quiet, quiet, girl," Serafina patted her hand. This touch resonated in Marta like a surge of warmth. It was as if she was burned, but not by fire, but by something benevolent, right? "But how do you know?" Marta repeated in a whisper. "I'm telling you, I don't know, I see," the old woman smirked. "Sorry, but do you only see what has been and what is, or the future too?" "The future?" Serafina was surprised. "Girl, the future is an uncertain process. No one can know or see how everything will turn out. But I've heard there are clairvoyants, fortune tellers, and they can predict." "Have you ever thought about the meaning of the word fortune teller?" The old woman smiled cunningly. "Well, it's someone who guesses," Marta shrugged. "On cards, by hand, on bones." "Exactly. Guesses, infers, which means speculates, doubts, but does not know in advance. I could call myself a fortune teller too, but I won't. You see, I have gypsy heritage, and my grandmother on my father's side was in the business. Not the one who was a ballerina, the other grandmother. But my mother moved to the city, pulled me out of all that gypsy stuff, and strictly ordered me not to get involved in such matters. The trouble is, I inherited these abilities from my grandma. Yes, I can lay out the cards. I'm not so good with palmistry, just know the basics. I have a different kind of gift." "Is that what you call vision?" "You could say that. You know, girl, you've helped me a lot, and I want to repay you for your kindness. Even though you doubt, which I also see, let me read your fortune, as you call it. But don't expect from me all that long journey, government house, and the like. Don't worry, I'll just do this for you. I won't ask for money, moreover, I'll return everything you paid for the ticket. It's different. Understand, I see something, but if I keep it to myself, you probably won't take this path on your own. You'll make mistakes, and then your line of future will change. But you said it isn't predetermined." Marta frowned. "Exactly," nodded Serafina. "There's no definitive future, it's variable and depends on our choices. For example, if you hadn't gotten on that plane just now, you wouldn't have met me, I couldn't have gotten home in time, and my granddaughter, say, might have forgotten to turn off the gas and run out to play. It is summer, after all. Then a fire, wandering, expenses. You understand? Now, I'll be home on time. She knows I should be back by 9 and sits quietly. If I'm delayed, she might get up to something. Such a child. Just like her father. So, the future can be seen after all? Marta persisted. Yes, it can. But only what is destined. The question is, can you live with that knowledge? Sometimes, terrible things are visible. But I'll tell you everything. In your case, everything will happen the opposite way. How so? Marta was surprised. So, do you really want to know? The old woman winked. A mechanical voice from the speakers announced that the train would arrive at its destination in 5 minutes. Yes, Marta nodded. But hurry, or we won't have time. Oh, you're all always in such a rush. Listen, Marta. When you get home, don't go to the hospital right away. Wait for the morning, or you'll jump to the wrong conclusions and harm yourself. You'd regret it for the rest of your life. But in the morning, go straight to the doctor you've already spoken with. They'll try to scare you. Don't believe anyone. It's all just predictions. You already know everything you can do. Only willpower, love, and faith will help you get everything back on track. If you don't listen to me, you'll manage anyway, but the cost will be higher. If you do listen, there will be a reward, one so great that you'll forget all your troubles. So, am I to understand that I should just go home and go to sleep? Marta was frustrated. But my husband just had a stroke. So what? He's lying there, and the doctors are watching over him. Your being there won't help. He's in such a state that even if you sit next to him and hold his hand, he won't feel it. But what would happen if I go there now? It would have some effect, wouldn't it? Don't meddle in what you don't understand. I can't tell you the details, otherwise God will punish me. It's forbidden to peek into what ordinary people shouldn't see. Just trust me, you need to endure this firmly. And turn off your phone. The hospital will call you, urging you to come quickly. You must simply ignore this. But Mario will be fine. Of course, it's up to you. You don't have to do as I say. But I just wanted to repay you for your help, so I'm giving you detailed instructions. But how do I know you're not lying? I don't know you at all. What if you're just leading me on to make fun of me? Serafina gave Marta such a meaningful look, almost as if chiding her, that Marta involuntarily bit her tongue. Marta realized the old woman was not joking. There are things, girl, that are not to be taken lightly. A person's life is at the top of that list. I see all your doubts and fears, and I can't give you any guarantees except my word, so just believe. That faith will come in handy in the coming months. The train arrived at the platform, and the passengers began to gradually get up from their seats. Marta and Serafina also stood and headed for the exit. Marta descended first. She turned around to ask Serafina if she needed to call a taxi home, but to her surprise, she realized that the old woman had simply disappeared. She was neither on the platform nor in the vestibule. Marta looked around bewildered and even called out to the old woman a couple of times. After everyone had exited the train, she even re-entered the carriage. Serafina had vanished. First thing, Marta got home. It was already around 10. Contrary to Serafina's prediction, she intended to go to the hospital. She quickly took a shower and dressed. Just as she was about to leave, something seemed to hold her back. What nonsense! Marta thought. Some strange old woman spouted all sorts of nonsense, and I'm supposed to believe her? After all, Mario is my husband. I can't just sit at home doing nothing. He's there, vulnerable and alone, and I'm supposed to just go to sleep? That's not why I rushed here, flying in from another country. Besides, that old woman said such things. She couldn't have just randomly made up stuff about Vicente, about my job. Maybe she somehow recognized me and just remembered hearing about my tragedy, adding some mystique. But I'm not a public figure. I've never been mentioned in the media. Who am I? Maybe common acquaintances. But hardly. How could I have them with an old gypsy woman? Anyway, I remember her address. I don't remember the apartment, but the building. I could just drive there. She even promised to repay me for the ticket, and I could ask her everything in detail. Still, it bothers me how she suddenly disappeared when exiting the train. Maybe her passport wasn't even real? Well, I'll find out in due time. Right now, I need to rush to Mario. Marta opened the door and stepped out, but suddenly realized she couldn't find her keys. They were neither in her purse nor on the shelf in the hallway where she always automatically placed them when she came home. She searched everywhere, but the keys seemed to have vanished through the ground. Mystical. Marta grumbled. I could leave the apartment unlocked, of course, especially since it's unlikely anyone would check the doors at night. Although, there are spare keys. Marta dashed to the cabinet with tools where the spare set of keys was kept, but it wasn't there. What is going on? The woman exclaimed. It's as if everyone conspired. That old woman couldn't have teleported my keys remotely. In helpless anger, Marta sat on the bench and burst into tears. She sat there for a while, weighing whether or not to go. In the end, she thought, there really isn't much difference whether I go now or in the morning. I was lucky there was a ticket. If there hadn't been, I wouldn't have been able to fly until tomorrow. All right, I'll try to rest. I should call the hospital to check on Mario's condition. She dialed the reception department number. At first, they took a long time to connect her to the nursing station on the floor where Mario's room was located. When they finally answered, an irritated woman scolded her for disturbing them at such a late hour and hung up the phone with a clatter. Marta stared at her smartphone screen in shock. From the tone of the nurse who answered, she understood that there was some commotion in the neurological department. She was about to dial the number again when suddenly her phone abruptly went dark and shut off. What is happening? She exclaimed in frustration, jumping up from the bench. This is absolutely outrageous. She tried to turn on the phone, but it didn't respond. Attempts to charge the device were also unsuccessful. Marta remembered the words of the old gypsy woman. She had said that it would be best not only to avoid going to the hospital, but also to turn off the phone. As if the old hag knew that Marta would disobey her. It seemed she had taken care to ensure her victim wouldn't go anywhere or make any calls. Marta burst into tears again. She just sat on the floor, swallowing salty tears that streamed down her cheeks, painfully burning her delicate skin. Marta didn't know how much time had passed. She fell asleep right there on the floor. She woke up in the dead of night. Staggering, she walked to the bedroom. The wall clock showed around 4 o'clock. The sky outside was already beginning to lighten, and through the slightly open window came the cheerful chirping of birds. Marta sat on the bed and tried once more to turn on the phone. This time, the device yielded, and the screen lit up welcomingly. Immediately, text messages about missed calls started pouring in. 2 of them were from the hospital, the number Marta herself had dialed. The rest were from unknown mobiles. She didn't call anyone back. Her head was splitting, an unbearable ache pressed in her chest, and Marta even felt a slight bout of nausea. She poured herself some water from the pitcher on the bedside table and lay down on the bed, covering herself with a blanket. What else did that witch say? Marta thought as she was falling asleep. I wonder what she meant when she said that by visiting the hospital I'd only make things worse and would regret it later? How is that even possible? What's going on there? Again, she claimed that Mario would supposedly be fine. Then how would I harm myself? I don't understand anything. All right, I'll go in the morning and figure it out. The phone was insistently chiming under the pillow where Marta had absent-mindedly shoved it during the night. Without opening her eyes, she reached for it. Hello, she mumbled sleepily. Marta? Hello, responded a cheerful voice. We couldn't reach you yesterday. This is from the regional clinic. Your husband. Oh God. Mario. What's wrong with him? Marta immediately woke up. He took a turn for the worse during the night, it's hard to explain over the phone. Can you come as soon as possible? Yes, of course. I'll be there in half an hour, the woman nodded energetically, as if the caller could see her. Please come to the reception on the 3rd floor of the neurology department. I'll be waiting for you there. My name is Anna. And is Saiz Margarita there, if I'm not mistaken? Marta asked cautiously, recalling that the gypsy woman had insisted on contacting her. She has the day off today. Last night was tough, so I'm covering for her for now. All right, Marta frowned. I'll be there soon. We'll be expecting you. What's going on again? Marta fumed to herself as she pulled on jeans and a t-shirt. And this Saiz. I wonder if interacting with her will somehow affect Serafina's prophecy. Since I've already gone along with her, maybe I should continue. Otherwise, what's the point at all? She reached the clinic in just 20 minutes. At the entrance, she had a long back-and-forth conversation because she had forgotten her passport, and the receptionists outright refused to accept her driver's license as valid identification. What is going on here? Marta burst out angrily at yet another indifferent shrug from the receptionist. My husband is dying, and you won't let me in. I'll call the police. Bring your supervisor here immediately. Ma'am, calm down. These are the rules, the receptionist repeated robotically. You are required to have a passport with you. This is a government institution. I don't care about that. Since when a driver's license is not acceptable as ID? Ma'am, why are you making a scene? A soft baritone voice interrupted from beside her. Marta turned around, her face twisted in fury. Opposite her stood an older man in a white coat. I want to see the head of neurology. They won't let me see my husband. Apparently, a driver's license isn't enough to prove my identity. What kind of madness is this? I flew here from another country, dropped everything, and now I'm just hitting a wall of indifference. What's your name? The doctor asked gently. Marta. Marta Benitez. My husband, Mario, is on the 3rd floor. I first got a call from Margarita Saiz, and today Anna called, telling me to come immediately. I couldn't make it earlier, sorry about that. I need to see my husband right away. Can you help me get past this Cerberus? Marta gestured at the receptionist with her chin. Ada, the man squinted at the receptionist, please register this lady under my responsibility. Yes, Dr. Soto, the subdued receptionist squeaked. And you, Marta Benitez, come with me. I'll escort you to neurology. The man accompanied Marta to the elevator and pressed the button for the correct floor. Sorry for that little scene. Marta glanced at the corner of the elevator, embarrassed. I'm just on edge. My husband nearly died, and I. No need to apologize. Don't worry about it, the doctor said reassuringly. We're still working on getting some of our older staff accustomed to new systems. They're used to the old-school passport system. Nowadays, we have biometric scanners at the entrance. Just show your face, and if your data is in the system, it works as ID. Biometrics don't lie, trust me, I'm a doctor. And you are? Oh, I didn't introduce myself, my apologies, the man smiled. Max Soto, head of gynecology. You said your husband is in neurology? Yes, he had a stroke. I was on a business trip when I found out. As soon as I heard, I dropped everything and flew here. I see. Here we are. Let me wait with you for the doctor to make sure there's no trouble. You're on edge, anything could happen. No need. Marta flushed deeply. I just went overboard. But thank you for your help. By the way, do you know Saiz well? Is she a good doctor? Margarita? The doctor looked Marta in the eye. She's the best at what she does. If your husband is under her care, you can be sure she'll get him back on his feet. No question about it. But as far as I know, she had some personal emergency and won't be in the clinic for a couple of days. I see. Got it. What about Anna? Anna? Max frowned. If you've spoken to Gil, be cautious with her. She's a decent doctor, but as a person, she's quite negative and lacks empathy. I can't say whether that's a good or bad thing for our profession, but my advice to you is this: don't take anything she says at face value. If you need to make any major decisions, wait for Saiz at all costs. What do you mean? Marta asked, confused. How can I explain this? It's not my style to gossip, but there have been cases where, under her orders, life support was turned off for supposedly hopeless patients who, in my opinion, could have been saved. She's lazy and tough. But don't take my words as gospel either. I only know Anna as a person, not professionally. We don't work together, our specialties are too different. And believing rumors isn't professional. Just be careful. All right, Marta nodded, though a vague sense of unease began to creep into her mind. God, what kind of hospital is this, she thought. This place is insane, a Cerberus at the desk, rude staff, predatory doctors, intrigue. Or is this just how it always is, and I've been clueless? A hospital should be a place where lives are saved, but here, it feels like the opposite. Are you Marta? A cheerful voice suddenly called out. A young, pretty woman emerged from somewhere down the hallway. Yes, Marta nodded. And you are? Anna Gil. You can just call me Anna. I'm not a fan of formalities. All right. Marta, I don't have the best news for you. It wasn't something I could share over the phone, but... Can I see Mario? Marta interrupted. I can't wait any longer. Something strange is going on. Just tell me, is he okay? Anna took a deep breath and glanced to the side. Don't stay silent. Marta cried out. Listen, Mario's condition worsened during the night. How can I put this? He's in intensive care now. He experienced clinical death. His condition is extremely critical. But how? Will he live? Marta turned pale. It's too early to say. We're doing everything we can, but his chances are slim. Why did he even have a stroke? We don't have much information. The causes are beyond our scope. We're only treating the consequences. If I were you, I'd prepare for the worst. What? What do you mean? I don't want to scare you, Anna hesitated, but I also don't think it's right to give you false hope. Have you informed his family? Yes, I called his mother and sister. They don't live here. His sister said she'll come as soon as she can. For now, go home. We'll contact you as soon as there's any change. But can I at least see him? Marta, Mario is in intensive care. I've told you this. Only staff are allowed in there. Even if I wanted to, I can't take you to him. Listen, Margarita told me to get in touch with her. Saiz isn't at the clinic right now. She's dealing with a family issue. She won't be back for 2 days. Hopefully, by then, your husband will have improved, and you'll be able to see him. For now, there's nothing more I can do. But... Excuse me, I have work to do. Anna abruptly turned and walked away from Marta. Marta stood there, mouth agape, unable to process what had just happened or what she should do. She sank onto a nearby couch and burst into bitter tears. Suddenly, she recalled Serafina's words that she absolutely needed to contact Saiz because everyone else would only frighten her. With trembling fingers, Marta retrieved her phone, remembering that she had Saiz's personal number from when the doctor had first called her. She scrolled through her contact list, found the number, and pressed dial. The phone rang for a long time before a groggy voice finally answered. Hello? Good evening, Marta stammered nervously. I'm so sorry to bother you. This is Marta Benitez, Mario's wife. You asked me to call you once I arrived. I'm at the hospital now, but I was told you're off for the weekend. Yes. Saiz's voice instantly grew more alert. Marta, I'm so sorry I'm not there right now. Something happened during the night. Margaret, please tell me the truth. I just spoke to Anna, and she told me some terrifying things. That Gil again, sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Saiz snapped angrily. Marta, are you free right now? Yes, I am. They won't let me see Mario. He's in the ICU, that's correct. Are you able to come meet me? Yes, I think so. Take down this address. I'm sorry to make you run all over the city, but this is the only way we can meet and talk right now. It's fine. I just want to know everything about my husband. I'd go to the ends of the earth if I have to. 15 minutes later, Marta arrived at the address Saiz had given her. She was sitting in her car when a petite woman of indeterminate age tapped on her window. Hello again, Marta. Margaret? Marta looked at her questioningly. Please, get in the car. The doctor climbed into the passenger seat. Marta, I won't beat around the bush. My patient was taken away from me. You see, this hospital is a real snake pit. Anna is having an affair with our chief physician. She has mediocre knowledge at best, but an absolutely overinflated sense of self-importance. What does that mean? During the night, Mario slipped into a coma. Most likely, it was the result of an allergic reaction to one of the medications. Yes, it's my fault that I prescribed it, but there was no record of any allergies in his chart, and he couldn't tell us anything himself. Naturally, the neighbor who called the ambulance didn't know anything either. You can blame me, but I was just doing my job. I don't blame you, Marta whispered. I didn't know Mario had any allergies either, especially to medications. He's never even caught a cold, and I can only remember him going to the dentist once. How could anyone have known? Thank you, Margaret smiled weakly. I really appreciate that you don't hold this against me. It's rare, but it happens. Anna, on the other hand. She's been trying to push me out of my position for years, and now she has her chance. She convinced the chief physician to temporarily suspend me. If you file a negligence lawsuit against me, I'll almost certainly lose my job. Cases like these rarely end in favor of the doctor. I'm not going to file anything. Just tell me one thing, what's happening with Mario? Can he be saved? Anna told me his chances are slim. Who said that? Margaret's anger flared. Right now, the most critical thing is to bring him out of the coma. The problem is that Gil isn't likely to put in the effort. She hates people. I don't even understand how she ended up in medicine. She's already caused so much harm, but the chief physician keeps covering for her. Max told me to stay away from her. Soto? How did you come across him? He's a gynecologist. He helped me. By the way, he spoke very highly of you. Soto is an excellent doctor and a truly remarkable person. Compared to Anna, he's practically a saint. But that's not the point. Marta, if you want to save your husband, you must go back to the hospital immediately and demand that Mario's attending physician be replaced. Gil will destroy him, I can feel it. The only chance to save him and get him out of the ICU alive is to urgently switch to a competent doctor. You need to go straight to the chief physician and insist. Do you have any connections in the Ministry of Health? That would help. I don't even know. But, wait a minute. Marta's mind raced, and suddenly clarity struck. She grabbed her phone and dialed her boss. Ion, it's Benitez. No, Mario is in the ICU. They're not letting me see him. Ion, I urgently need your help. I know you won't turn me down. Yes, you have plenty of contacts, right? Maybe someone at the Ministry of Health? Yes, I'll wait. What happened? Marta briefly recounted everything to her boss. Half an hour later, he called back and instructed her to go to the hospital immediately with Saiz. When the two women arrived at the hospital, Ion was there to meet them, accompanied by a stern-looking woman in a formal suit. My name is Ida, the woman introduced herself curtly. Ion explained everything to me. We've been trying to deal with the chief physician for a long time, complaints keep piling up, but the staff remains silent because they're afraid of repercussions. Tell me, Margarita, would you be willing to testify against him and Gil if needed? Me? Margarita looked surprised. I'll help you now, Ida said coldly, giving them a calculating glance. From what I understand, a person's life is at stake, but I expect cooperation in return. And don't misunderstand me, this isn't about selfish interests. I'm simply responsible for maintaining standards among medical staff. Medicine is a unique field, catching a doctor in wrongdoing isn't easy. Complaints alone aren't enough. For now, Marta, you'll need to go into the chief physician's office with a recorder. Yes, it's illegal, but at the ministry, that recording will be enough for us to build a case against him. Once he starts refusing to switch Mario's attending physician, threaten him with higher authorities and watch his reaction. From there, I'll take over. All right, Marta said, surprised by the sudden turn of events. Together, they went up to the administrative fourth floor of the hospital. Margarita had no trouble getting in with her companions. She showed Marta where the chief physician's office was. His name is Diego, Saiz whispered. Marta took a deep breath and knocked loudly on the door. Come in, a gruff voice replied. Diego? Marta began, feigning a cheerful tone. That's me. And who are you? My name is Benitez. My husband is currently in the ICU, and I have reason to believe he's not receiving proper medical care. What nonsense is this? Diego sneered. Who filled your head with such rubbish? Who's his attending physician? Before last night, it was Saiz, but now, as far as I know, it's Gil, Marta replied. Ah, I see, the man smirked. Listen, lady, I don't know where you're getting your information, but Anna is a top-tier doctor. There's no one better than her. I have the legal right to request a change in my husband's attending physician. I'm convinced that this woman is only harming him. She didn't even let me see him, and all she did was scare me with talk of his imminent death. Ma'am, Diego said, rising from his chair, do you even understand what you're asking? If someone is in the ICU, visitors aren't allowed. That's the rule for everyone, whether you change the doctor or not. Yes, but I want my husband to be under the care of another specialist. If not, I'll escalate this to a higher authority and demand it through other means if you're unwilling to proceed legally. Go ahead, complain wherever you want. Diego laughed. Those snoops at the Ministry of Health have no business here. There's no evidence, you see. I assign whoever I deem fit, and I couldn't care less about your sudden whims to switch doctors. This isn't some circus where you pick and choose, it's a government institution. If I'm in charge, you listen to me. Gil is an excellent doctor. If you've heard rumors that she's sending patients to the grave, don't believe them. People dislike her because she's good at her job, plain envy. Oh, really? I've also heard that you have a close relationship with her, Marta blurted out, surprising even herself. Who I sleep with is none of your business. Diego went pale. Even if it's true, it has nothing to do with work. Oh, it absolutely does, came a sharp voice as Ida entered the room without knocking. Well, Diego, we finally meet. What are you doing here? Diego roared. What the hell is going on? Is this some kind of setup? I didn't say anything to her. She's some crazy woman demanding the impossible. Diego, Ida said calmly as she sat in his chair, just so you know, everything you said has been recorded. Sure, it's not exactly admissible in court, but it will be devastating for your career. Oh, and sleeping with your subordinate while another woman's husband is in critical condition? I'll make sure Maria hears all about it. Don't you dare. Diego turned green. What do you want? I'll do anything. Bring Saiz back. You know full well that your precious Gil is going to let that man die. Tell me, does she even check on him, or is she just sipping coffee while he's hooked up to life support? Promise this won't go public? Diego grimaced. Whether it does or doesn't, you don't really have a choice. Now, do what needs to be done, and we'll see from there. Mario was transferred from the ICU to a regular ward. By then, he had partially regained motor function. His speech was still slurred, but he recognized Marta and could communicate with her through winks and hand squeezes. Every day, Marta spent hours by his bedside, supporting him in every way possible. Saiz assured her that Mario would be discharged the following week, beginning a long and difficult road to rehabilitation. Marta didn't care. The most important thing was that her husband was alive and determined to fight his way out of this nightmare. As Margarita said, that determination was enough to get him back into the battlefield of life. That evening, a happy Marta returned home, stopping by an orthopedic store to order the necessary equipment for her husband's recovery. It was all scheduled to be installed before his return. As she approached her apartment, she noticed something sticking out of the doorframe, a small sealed envelope with no markings on it. Taking it inside, she sat on a bench and carefully tore open the envelope, unable to contain her curiosity. Inside was a large denomination bill and a thin, sandalwood-scented sheet of paper. As she caught it mid-fall, Marta slightly crumpled the fragile paper. She carefully smoothed it out and saw a surface covered in neat, tiny handwriting. "Hello, Marta. Returning what I owe you. Don't wonder how I found your address. If you're curious, your personal details were on the train ticket. I quietly took it when leaving the carriage, and finding out the rest was just a matter of technique. I know you did everything exactly as I asked, even though you resisted desperately. I had to fiddle with your keys and phone a bit to make it happen, but it was worth it, wasn't it? I hope your beloved husband is recovering. You did an excellent job cornering that pest Diego. He's quite a character. Now, everything will be all right. Don't worry, you have enough strength and patience. Remember, faith and love will help you overcome anything. And that equipment you bought today? Especially the leg trainer, use it often. As for your long-awaited reward, I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to stress you out unnecessarily. It could have harmed you, and you'd have ended up with nothing. That's why I didn't advise you to go to the hospital immediately. The news of Mario's clinical death would have caused a nervous breakdown, and that would have led to a miscarriage. Yes, my dear, you heard me right. You're expecting a child. If you still don't believe me, buy a test at the pharmacy, or better yet, visit Soto, that kind gynecologist. He'll take care of you from start to finish. You'll have a beautiful and healthy baby girl. I won't tell you her name, even though I know it. You'll understand soon enough. So don't delay, dear, and never be afraid of anything. When your little girl is born, everything in your life will fall into place again. If you ever miss me, come visit, you know my address. I'll introduce you to my granddaughter, Serafina." Marta couldn't believe her eyes. How did this woman, who had appeared so suddenly in her life and just as suddenly disappeared, know all this? But most importantly, the pregnancy. Could it really be true? It seemed impossible, even in theory. After all, the doctors had clearly said she could never have children again. But not all doctors are the same, she thought, picturing Diego and Anna's faces. Marta didn't rush to the pharmacy. Instead, she decided to follow the old woman's advice. After all, it was Serafina's words that had saved Mario's life. Standing by the window, Marta smiled as she gently placed a hand on her stomach. She already knew how she would name her future daughter. And somehow, she already knew the little one was alive and growing inside her. It wasn't just knowledge, it was a feeling, a certainty.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.